Our next review of the day is going to be, next and final review is going to be for Guy Ritchie's The Covenant. The Covenant is a movie starring Jake Gyllenhaal. Here in this movie, Jake Gyllenhaal is playing a Afghanistan war vet by the name of John Kinkley. I think is his last name. Kinkley, right? Kinley.
John Kinley.
John Kinley there. And it's all about him and his interpreter. Do you have the name of his interpreter?
Yeah, the interpreter is Ahmed, who's played by Dar Salim.
Yeah. So him and his interpreter. So it's all about, it's telling the story, in the story of the Afghanistan war, of how the military used to contract these natives of Afghanistan in the Middle East to come, work and interpret, translate for soldiers in there because they know the environment, they know the land. So it's like, they're on the ground people.
And also learning languages is hella hard, and the army and the government ain't gonna spend the money to teach us.
Yeah. Exactly. So, so he kind of forms this bond with him after they come across the Taliban, and they end up he ends up getting severely injured, and then Ahmed ends up dragging him all across to try to get him back to the base that they were from, and in course of that, Ahmed becomes Taliban's on their kind of hit list, their top 10 most wanted people, and he forces him to go underground. And then even though Jake Gyllenhaal, that he's back home with his family, he can't stop thinking about Ahmed and what he did for him. He's like, I got to repay the favor. I got to go back and I got to go save him and get his family. Because the whole reason why a lot of people become interpreters, as they say in this movie, is to get visas.
And this is a real thing that our government promised them. Is that if you come work for us, become an interpreter during the Iraq War, when you're done, you get a visa, you get to come to America and escape retaliation from the Taliban. Because even in small scenes in the first act where you get them interrogating Taliban guys, they always call Ahmed traitor. I'm going to kill you and I'm going to kill your entire family.
Yeah. So that's kind of one of the big reasons why a lot of them do become interpreters, they say in the movie. So he's like, Jake Gyllenhaal's like, okay, I'm gonna go save this guy, go get his family out of hiding, give them visas, so they can kind of come back, and give them what he was promised to begin with. So in this movie, first of all, I would say that this being a Guy Ritchie movie, if Guy Ritchie's name had been attached to it, I wouldn't have guessed that this was a Guy Ritchie movie at all. There's
nothing really about this movie that screams directed by Guy Ritchie. And I know he's kind of fallen into that kind of work for hire sort of directors when he's not doing stuff like Snatch, like Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, like The Gentleman. And it's even more so present here, even though I think this is probably one of his better work for hire films, which I'm kind of hesitant to even call it that because he co-wrote the film as well.
So I wonder what was his decision behind, doing this movie. I wonder what was kind of his decision behind that. Because I want to say that this is one of his first movies that he's done that has a American lead in it or isn't related into the UK or London, I want to say. Because, I forgot he did Aladdin. I forgot he did that. Yeah, I forgot he did Aladdin.
But that's definitely in the work for hire category of his films.
Yeah. I would say that his style, doesn't really come through here in The Covenant. Very much kind of, it's more in relation to maybe something that you would see maybe like a lesser, like Zero Dark 30 maybe, something kind of along those lines, more of this drama, war, thriller type film, action kind of type film of like Extraction or Zero Dark 30 or something like that. And the action here is well done. It's well shot. It doesn't feel too Hollywood. It actually feels pretty visceral. It actually feels pretty real.
Something that I think Hollywood does get a lot of flack for, and something that I've started to come to see more and more and started to irk me a little bit, is when they are doing these kind of very serious war dramas and they get to the action, it's really glamorized and shown as like, hey, aren't we so cool for how good we are at killing dudes? And in reality, and as it's shown in here, every single skirmish they have with the Taliban hunting them, it's terrifying. It was like dudes that are in their unit are getting gunned down right next to them, and guys that we spent most of the first act getting to know.
Yeah, and it's it's quick too. Guys just get shot in the head and that's it. You know what I mean? It's like they're just down. That's it. You know what I mean? So it's quick. It's visceral, which I liked. Here, like I said, the Taliban are the main villains. You do have kind of some main figures that you see behind the Taliban that's calling the shots, calling the orders. There isn't really a lot of time spent with them, just through some scenes with their own phone calls, things like that. So they're not really the main focus here, or you don't really get to spend a whole lot. Yeah.
Yeah, the main focus of this movie is the bond between Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim, which that is the absolute highlight of this movie, and it is better acted and better written than this movie or anything like it should be.
Yeah. And I think they do a good job at building the relationship between Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim there, and building that kind of camaraderie there, and seeing kind of their journey and his eventual goal to kind of go rescue him there. So I did, like that a lot. I did like to see them build that. The movie, I think it moves at a good pace. It has good momentum to it. You're able to kind of get things through. Do think, like some of the beginning of it, when you see kind of some of the other soldiers, I think you could have maybe jumped quicker into the whole getting the interpreter and everything like that. But I think the opening does show, because they have another interpreter there. He doesn't last too long. Something happens to him the beginning of there. But you see, I think it goes to show how dangerous this is. You know what I mean, for people, for everybody involved in that. So if you're looking for, like, I think a good, just solid, maybe action, war, thriller, this may satisfy that. It doesn't blow you out of the water or anything, I don't think. But, I think, this is kind of light work for Jake Gyllenhaal, who is building up a nice, variety, diverse resume that he's got there of all these kind of different movies that he's kind of been in, which is very good. So, yeah. So I would give it, for me, I would just give it a stream it for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, in doing these movies and seeing movies like this remind me of like a really fantastically acted and shot dad film. Like, this reminded me a lot of films like of its ilk, like stuff like Olympus Has Fallen, like Plane, which I saw earlier this year. And this movie is much more well written and much more thematically rich and well acted than any dad movie I've seen in the last couple years. Jake Gyllenhaal and Dar Salim are outstanding. Their chemistry and their dynamic is the absolute highlight of this film, and the action scene set pieces in this are incredible, especially in the first act when they're on the run from the Taliban, when Jake Gyllenhaal is trying to get back into Afghanistan to try and rescue Ahmed, and all of that is really beautifully done. I do think that the movie does kind of drag a little bit in the second act when we initially get the whole journey that Salim does of carrying Jake Gyllenhaal's barely alive body through Afghanistan, and when we get Jake Gyllenhaal at home trying to get Ahmed his visa out and try to do the right thing by him, and all the bureaucracy and frustration that he's had to deal with, which, for anyone that's been on the phone trying to deal with the U.S. government or any kind of service like that, you will be seen. You have been seen by this movie.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, like we talked about with Hollywood doing movies about real events, true stories, they do give some information at the end of the movie about this is how many interpreters were assigned to the military, this is how many actually escaped.
Guarantees that the U.S. government made, and then we just left them out to dry when we withdrew from Iraq.
Yeah.
From Afghanistan.
So maybe interesting information in case you didn't know that, that you may get for that. So yeah, stream it for The Covenant.